Home. Chapter 52. A Miraculous Ladybug Fanfiction written and narrated by Mira Rose. If you haven't listened to the other 51 chapters of this story, you can find a link to them in the description box below. If you haven't already, don't forget to not only subscribe to this channel, you've made it 51 chapters after all, and smash that like button. Leave a comment in the comment section for the YouTube algorithm. If you're listening to the intro, you already know how it goes. If you don't know what's a comment, put camembert. Now then, please enjoy Home, Chapter 52. Adrian Graham de Vanelly as Cat Noir. Camembert. Cat Noir grasped his throat as he gasped for air. Cat! Marinette unlocked the window and slid it open, eyebrows raised. He took note of the baseball bat and had to stifle a laugh, mostly due to pain. I deserve that, he wheezed. What are you? She began, the bat still in hand. Can I come in? He could see the hesitation in her eyes. He couldn't blame her. She wasn't the one who left, after all. She was the one who'd been left. Would she open the door for him? Would she open the door and then maybe open her heart? He didn't think himself foolish for hoping so, but he couldn't blame her if she didn't. To his relief, she nodded, disappearing from the window. He went inside the building and knocked on her door to hear a delightful, "Come in." Well, perhaps it was only delightful to his ears. He opened the door to see Marinette, baseball bat no longer in hand, filling a tea kettle. She'd put on a cardigan, and perhaps it was the gesture, or perhaps it was the time that passed. But she was cute. Well, no. She was gorgeous. He planned on knocking at the door like a normal person as Adrian, but when he saw her through the window, he hadn't been able to help himself. Years passed, but she still owned his heart. How could he not greet such a gorgeous being the moment he laid eyes on her? It's been a while, he said, standing in the doorway. She'd changed. Her body, her demeanor, even her hairstyle. It was all different. She scoffed at the remark. You've gotten taller, she said, reaching into the cupboard. Yeah. Silence passed, and he kicked himself for using a one-word answer. Have a seat, she said, filling a cup with water and stirring. He did as he was asked, trying to not look around the room at the changes she'd made. The bathroom door was open, and he could see through the sliver of a gap the vanity she'd bought for him years ago, no longer looking new. Time had passed here as well, no matter how frozen his memories were. Thanks, he said as he received the cup. Hot chocolate. She'd always made this when he came back to her place after an Akuma fight. He didn't deserve her. He never deserved her. And she didn't deserve this. How have you been? He asked, unable to speak his mind. I'm better now. Good. He regretted the one-word answer as soon as it filled the space between them. Great. Why was he like this? You? She continued. He debated his answer. Would the truth hurt her? Whole. Clearly, it wasn't the answer she anticipated, but after a few blinks of surprise, she let down her shoulders. Good. Her response came with a smile, and Kat felt himself melting. Oh, dear. After all these years, he was still weak for her. That's a problem. Dating anyone? The question came out before he could stop it, and it took courage to not look away. He had no right to be hurt, no matter the answer. He'd been gone for 3, now nearly 4 years, and it'd be no surprise if she Dear John'd him like an LDS missionary. I've gone on a few dates. She looked away. Oh, how desperately he wanted to ask if they'd worked out, but no. This wasn't his place. He was the one who left, after all. You? The question took him off guard. Have I dated anyone? You don't have to answer if you don't want to. She was doing a relatively good job at keeping a poker face, but her smile was gone. He could tell she didn't want the answer. No. No, I haven't. Oh. Silence passed between them, and he noted Tiki staring from the corner, arms crossed. Claws in, he said, letting Plag go free. Are we at Leon's cheese store yet? The Kwame groaned, not bothering to take in his surroundings. Plag! Tiki exclaimed. Or perhaps scolded? He wasn't sure. Marinette's sigh caught his attention as the Kwames tried to hug, but ended in a chase. Adrian didn't mind. It meant they could watch them instead of trying to fill the silence, but the moment didn't last. What are you doing back, Kat? Marinette asked, adjusting her cardigan in a way that made it seem she was holding herself. Kat. She didn't call him by his name, even though he'd taken off the mask. But there it was, the question he dreaded. He could see, in her eyes, the answer she wanted, but it wasn't his to give. No, his return wasn't chivalrous or grandeur in the slightest. In fact, had he not messed up, he might not have come back at all. No easy way to say this. I lost the butterfly Miraculous. Her eyebrows shot up, and even Tiki stopped chasing Plag at the news. You what? Oh no. Here it comes. Yeah, You lost the Miraculous that can manipulate other people and that someone used for years to terrorize Paris? That Miraculous? You lost that Miraculous! If Adrian could melt into the chair, he would. But he sipped the hot chocolate instead. So, what's new with you? Marinette pinched the bridge of her nose, her eyebrows knit together. That's why you came back? Her voice wasn't as harsh as he thought it'd be. Adrian lowered his head. Yeah. Adrian Agrest, she said, arms crossed and shaking her head as she stared at her mug. That's not my name, he interrupted. She looked up, body language still cross, but with a softer expression. What do you mean? Marinette, He ran his hand over his face, temples to chin. My mom, she's... How could he explain it? She's awake. She dropped her angry facade, leaning forward and reaching for his hand. Adrian, that's... So I took her name. I don't know that one. Graham de Vanley. Isn't that your cousin's? He kept the maternal name as well. Marinette squeezed his hand lightly. Well then, she said, inhaling sharply. Pleased to meet you, Adrian Graham de Vanley. It's a mouthful, isn't it? It sure is, she laughed. Oh, her laugh. It'd been years since he heard it, even though this one was closer to a giggle. His heart ached for her, regardless of how selfish it was. Anyway, I, came to let you know. I'm taking responsibility for it, of course, but I figured you should know, considering you're the guardian. The handkerchief in his pocket all but burned him, torturing him to confess. She nodded, taking her hand away. Well, that's to be expected. Plug, claws out. Marinette looked confused for a moment before she realized. You're leaving? Yeah, it's for the best. He drained the cup, setting it down on the table with a clink. And I wish you the best, Marinette. You're an idiot. He'd been prepared for her to scream or cry or curse. He'd been prepared for all sorts of reactions. But this collected, cross-armed Marinette in a soft-looking cardigan took him off guard. I know. An absolute fool. Yes. And a coward. Yep. I loved you. No words had ever left him so guilty. I did too. It was selfish to say. It was so selfish, and all it would do would hurt her. I know, she said before he could continue his thoughts. Her voice cracked just like his heart. He stood up without a word. Thank you for your time. In an unexpected turn of events, she caught his wrist. Where do you think you're going? She asked. It came out more of an accusation or a bark. Home? Well, no, that wasn't right. Back to... We're partners, Kat. We're going to look for it together. Something he'd locked away in his heart trembled. No, we're not going to unlock that. Not here, not today. But Besides, she said, standing up and bringing the dishes to the sink. I'm the guardian, remember? It's my responsibility to know where the Miraculouses are and to keep the holders in check. He could tell there was no arguing. She was right. So, where do we start? It was an admittance of his defeat, but he knew deep down he didn't want to win the argument. With a good night's rest. Huh? And that's how Cat Noir, former superhero of Paris, found himself in his ex-girlfriend's childhood bed, surrounded by the smell of bread and the warmth of a comforter as Marinette lounged on the chase below. Surreal, but welcome. When his stubbornness finally receded, Cat allowed himself to drift into the feeling swaddling him. He remembered this. He remembered what this was. This is what it felt like to come home. Thank you so much for listening. That is the end of Season 1 of Home. Season 2 of Home is in production. However, it won't come until after the holidays for all of the preparation I have to do on the channel for the holidays and for other series. I hope you tune in. in January. If you are listening to this in the future and you don't have to wait, congratulations. Go ahead and click the next video. In the meantime, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe so you know when Chapter 53 is coming out, and leave a comment in support. If you don't know what to comment, put the feeling of home. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!